channel. I'm back to break down this 14-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I have released multiple MLB packages over there on Patreon, where you can get access to things like my starting pitcher data sheet that you see behind me during the videos, my hot hitter StatCast data sheet, my team hitting data sheet, my bullpen data, my power rankings, and my cheat sheet. That'll be linked in the description. Go ahead and check that out. Working on wrapping this season up as we're going along. If I can't take down a tournament, I definitely want one of my subscribers to. So go ahead and check that out. I think it's going to provide you with some valuable content that's going to help your lineups day in and day out. You can follow me over on Twitter at KJK DFS. And lastly, before we get into the video, if you could please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos that I release. That will be greatly appreciated. So let's go ahead and start breaking down this slate today. As always, I like to go ahead and look at K rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts. And the best guy on the slate today is that in Tyler Glasnow. Much different slate today than yesterday. I think we're going to have a ton of options, and we're going to have some pitching. So excited to break it down. 32.3% K rate overall, a 33% K rate against righties, and then a 31.5% K rate against lefties. And he's very, very solid against lefties. So if he's taking on a team that's left-handed heavy, unlike some right-handed pitchers, we're not even going to sweat it. And when looking at the lineup today that the New York Mets are expected to roll out, we can see that, they do have quite a few lefties in there. The Mets definitely have quite a few lefties. They only have, Alonso, Ramos, and J.D. Davis as right-handed hitters. So that just appeals to Tyler Glasnow splits, as we had discussed. Gives him a little bit of a boost as far as his strikeout, or not even his strikeout, his hard hit and his splits data. So he's top guy in the slate. We do have some higher strikeout guys here at the 2 and 3 spot in the slate that we're going to kind of go ahead and skip over real quick to break down some of the more elite options. So Shane Bieber's next on the list. He's got a 30.2% K rate, a 13.9 swinging strike rate. The ground ball, the fly ball stuff is very good. 29.8% K rate against righties. He's been solid across the board in the hard contact, the WOBA, the slugging, and all that stuff. And then a 30.6% K rate against left-handed hitting. So Shane Bieber, a guy that's been elite all year. I think we know what we're getting with him at this point. And he gets to take on the Chicago White Sox, who aren't the best matchup as far as the power category, but they definitely have the strikeouts to supply him with some upside on today's slate. They're a team that if you want an elite pitcher, you can get yourself in trouble real quick, but Shane Bieber is an elite pitcher, and he's somewhat matchup proof, and the strikeout rate's there, so that's what we care about when it comes to him. We're really looking for strikeouts. We can deal with the elite hitters. As long as there's some strikeout right there, Shane Bieber can go out and get the job done, and that's definitely the case today. Top option on the slate, Shane Bieber. Next on the list is Trevor Bauer, and Trevor Bauer I'm going to absolutely love today because he gets to take on this Milwaukee Brewers team, who has really been struggling in the strikeout category. When taking a quick look at my team hitting data sheet that I offer there on Patreon, I'll give you guys a quick little sneak peek. The Brewers have a 26.1% K rate, not good. They're very bad in the WOBA, the ISO, the slugging, the BABIP, the fly ball, the hard hit rate, which in this case we want it to be high because we're looking at a team hitting data sheet, not the pitching end. So they're just bad, and they're definitely a team that we can target. And then you look at how they do against right-handed pitching, and they have a 26.1% K rate. Not good. So these are all the reasons that I like Trevor Bauer, and then not to mention he's just elite overall. He's got a 29.9% K rate, a 12.6 swinging strike rate, a 31.8% K rate to right-handed hitting, and then a 28% K rate to lefties. So yeah, gonna love Trevor Bauer today. He's definitely high on my list when you combine his stuff and you combine the matchup. I think that Trevor Bauer is a tremendous option today, and then you look at the Vegas lines, and he comes in as a 162 favorite, and he's only 9.8K compared to Shane Bieber's 10.2. Not saying I don't have a ton of interest in Shane Bieber as well, but it's like we're looking at Trevor Bauer. He's got the matchup, he's got the stuff, and he's cheaper. So just something to think about as you're building your lineups. Definitely like Trevor Bauer. Kenta Maeda is next on the list, and he gets a great matchup as well. Take it on the Detroit Tigers. I mentioned the Milwaukee Brewers K rate. Well, the Detroit Tigers have the worst K rate in the league. So the Milwaukee Brewers are second to worst. The Tigers are the very worst. So these two pitchers right here, best matchups on the board. Kenta Maeda, 28.5% K rate, 14.9 swinging strike rate, a 34% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 22.9% K rate against lefties. So we do prefer to target Kenta Maeda against right-handed heavy lineups if at all possible, because it gives him a lot more strikeout upside with his particular splits and how he grades out. And when looking at this Detroit Tigers lineup today, they are going to be rolling out quite a few righties, and even the ones that aren't righties, their strikeout rates are high. So Kenta Maeda, definitely a ton of upside, and he comes in at a 9.2K price tag. So pitching is just absolutely loaded today. The slate is absolutely loaded today, and it feels like we're dealing with an exact opposite of yesterday real quick here. So we're going to have a ton of options, and as we're breaking down this pitching, I think we're going to be able to find guys in the cheap end and the high price tier, and then we'll figure out our bats that we most want to prioritize later in the video, and then we can kind of figure out how we're going to be building our lineups, I think. So next on the list, Lucas Giolito. Once again, amazing pitcher, threw no this year, so I think he built his name a little bit, his name value. He's got a 25.2% K rate, a 12.5 swing strike rate, a 26% K rate against right-handed hitting, and then a 24.4% K rate against lefties. And he gets to take on the Cleveland Indians, which isn't exactly the most ideal matchup, but when you're looking at the Vegas lines, we've already gone over Shane Bieber, and Shane Bieber's not even that big of a favorite in this game. And when you're looking at the implied run total, or the implied over-under of this game, I should say, it's at 6.5. So this game is expected to be just an absolute pitcher's duel. And I think we can capitalize and play both of these guys. So Lucas Giolito, definitely got to have interest in. Moving further along. The next guy is that in Max Fried taking on the Miami Marlins. He has a 25.1% K rate. The swinging strike rate's at 11.7. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's very, very good. Against righties, the ground ball and the fly ball stuff still is very good. He has a 24.4% K rate. And against lefties, he gets even better, and he has a 27.8% K rate. So Max Fried taking on these Miami Marlins, a team that has been struggling as of late a lot, it seems. And he comes in at 9K. Another guy up there in the 9K. I have to say, though, at 9K, I'm probably leaning towards just spending up a little bit more for Bauer and that type of deal when we look at the pricing. So I'm going to make it quick with Max Fried. He's definitely a viable option, but I'm probably going up just a little more. I don't think he's worth quite dropping down to when we have guys just for a little more. Next on the list would be Zach Greinke taking on the Seattle Mariners. Because of the matchup, he has a 23.6% K rate. Zach Greinke is very good as a real-life pitcher. He doesn't really excel as a fantasy pitcher at times because the strikeout rate's not the highest. But with the matchup, we can go ahead and target him. A 24.1% K rate against righties, and then a 23% K rate against lefties. And, I mean, hate to repeat myself, not really a guy I like to play a lot in fantasy because of his low strikeout rate. However, when looking at the Seattle matchup, there's definitely strikeouts there, but he comes in at a 9.4K price tag. So definitely a viable option. I would want to definitely spend an extra $400 to get up to Trevor Bauer. That's my opinion there. And then, we're getting down in this range where things are starting to go downhill a little bit. But with that being said, we definitely want to give you guys, some salary relief options on the slate today. We've gone over a lot of guys that are kind of priced up. So when breaking down, the salary relief guys, the very first option that's going to stand out for me is that in Masahiro Tanaka taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Tanaka comes in at a 7.6K price tag, so a big drop from the guys we've been talking about. And taking on these Toronto Blue Jays who can slug, but there's some strikeouts in here for sure in the middle of the lineup. The guys that can slug, Kevon Biggio, Bo Bichette, Teoscar Hernandez, Randall Grichuk, all those guys have power, but they do have some strikeouts as well. So I do think that Tanaka's a guy we can roll out and play today. 22.1% K rate, a 12.5 swing strike rate, which is very good. The ground ball, the fly ball, the walk-off's all very good. Against right-handed hitting, has a 23.8% K rate, and then against lefties, he has a 20.3. And I will mention that he's much better in the ground ball, the hard ball, and all that stuff against right-handed hitting. So we do prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups if at all possible. And when looking at this Toronto Blue Jays team, they're definitely a right-handed heavy lineup. So Tanaka, definitely a viable option in the mid-range today. Like him. Moving further along, of guys that we can target. let's see, Adrian Hauser next on the list, taking on the Cincinnati Reds. I had mentioned I like Trevor Bauer, so I think Trevor Bauer's probably going to get the win. So the only downside of playing Adrian Hauser is that you're probably not going to get the win with him. However, he has a 22% K rate, a 9.8 swing strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's very good. Against righties, once again, walk, ground ball, fly ball, very, very impressive. The 23.3% K rate's not bad at all, and then a 20.7 against lefties. So I think Adrian Hauser is a viable option taking on the Cincinnati Reds. 7.5K if you want to drop down to him. Sixto Sanchez is a guy with a ton of talent taking on the Atlanta Braves. His matchup stinks, though, because these Braves are really talented. But when you're looking at what he's done so far, the ground ball, the fly ball, the walk, the hard hit rate have been absolutely tremendous. The K rate's pretty good, too, at 22%. 18.9% K rate against righties, and then a 25.4 against lefties. So he actually has been striking out lefties a lot more, which is a little bit problematic when looking at the Atlanta Braves lineup because they're only rolling out 2 lefties or 3 lefties. So Sixto is a guy that might gain some traction because he's been real good early on, but not sure if he's in the best spot. And yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much an overall good breakdown of pitching on the slate. It feels like we're going to want to spend up because there are just some tremendous options that come in both with the stuff and the matchup. So yesterday was a slate I was really high on spending down at pitching, and I think I had the right approach there. I just don't know if I picked the right guys to spend down on, which is a different story. Yesterday's slate was real weird. But anyways, I think this one's going to be a little different. Last guy I would touch on is Alex Young, the lefty taking on Texas. I seem to be a very big promoter of the lefties taking on Texas, and I think for a good reason. They've just been bad against left-handed pitching. Alex Young comes in at 7.1K, so I think he's another guy that we can go to in the mid-range. He has a 19.8% K rate. You can see the swing strike rate's actually pretty good at 12.1. The ground ball and the fly ball is respectable. Against righties, he really, really struggles, so we prefer to target him against left-handed heavy lineups. And we're looking at the Texas Rangers. They're going to go ahead and roll out, quite a few righties. They're right-handed heavy lineup, but they're all righties that are really not good hitters, and once again have been struggling against left-handed pitching all year long. So I do think that Alex Young's a viable option as my last guy to wrap out pitching. Not a high priority of mine. I had mentioned the guys that are a high priority. We definitely have some good places to go, so don't play him a ton, but he's viable to throw in a couple lineups. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down some bats that we're going to want to target today. Enough talking about the pitching. Let's figure out some bats that we like. And as always, I like to go ahead and sort my sheet by Sierra, scale on our active ERA. It's a great way to figure out how good a pitcher's been so far in their career and how good they're projected to be in the future. And when looking at the very worst guy on the slate today, Ryan Castellani taking on the San Francisco Giants, you can see he doesn't have a single category that is yellow on my sheet, which means he's very, very bad. All red, all orange, very bad. Against righties, he has a 487 slugging, very, very bad. Against lefties, he has a 571 slugging, even worse. I don't think I need to really spend a lot of time on breaking down those stats other than saying they're very, very bad. So, when looking at the lineup that he's taking on today in the San Francisco Giants, I think the data matches up. They're in San Francisco, which is one of the worst hitting environments in baseball. It's 63 degrees out. Those are terrible hitting conditions, and Vegas is saying that they're expected to score 5.13 runs. So yeah, I think that just backs up my point. Ryan Castellini is not good. Target the guys at the top of the order. Target the guys with power. Alex Dickerson, Brandon Belt are my favorite. The rest of this lineup's real weak. So they're kind of a garbage stack, as I like to call it. Or I don't even know. There's so many terms, but we'll just call it a garbage stack for now. Not meaning that it's actually garbage, but it doesn't make you feel good when you play it, but it could pay off. That's what I mean when I say garbage stack. So they're definitely a team that you could throw in on the cheaper end if you want to throw in 2 elite pitchers and then just throw in some Giants bats and hope they go out there and have a good day for you. I think it's viable because Castellini is terrible. So, while it's not the best hitting environment and while this isn't the best lineup in baseball, definitely viable targets today. Next worst on the slate is Eric Fetty taking on these Philadelphia Phillies. Very bad in every single category except for the ground ball and the fly ball. Against righties, he gives up a 461 slugging. Not good. The ground ball and the fly ball is respectable once again, but 456 slugging against lefties. So, The ground ball and the fly ball stuff's good, but he's giving up a lot of hard contact. And when you are taking on a team such as the Philadelphia Phillies, who have guys in their lineup such as Bryce Harper, the young talent, Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, Didi Gregorius, these guys can definitely get the ball airborne and get you some runs today. So I definitely have interest in this lineup. You know, my top options would be Boehm, Harper, Realmuto, Didi Gregorius in the middle of the order. And then you have Jay Bruce at the bottom for cheap that I like, and Gene Segura. So, I mean, Andrew McCutchen at the top of the order is also definitely a viable option at only 3.5K. He hasn't been the most impressive, but that's real cheap. So, get exposure to the top of the lineup for cheap for sure. Next on the list of guys we want to target is that in Casey Mize. However, Casey Mize definitely is a talented kid. I think his Sierra is just not looking good because he's had a few bad starts early on in his career. But when we're looking at the game overall, I do think that he's going to get some strikeouts, but he's going to give us some hard contact. So he's probably a guy you could play if you want, but you know he has just been struggling early on, and Minnesota does have a high implied run total. And when you're looking at specifically his numbers, he's been very, very effective against right-handed hitting and very, very bad against lefties. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say play every single lefty in this lineup against him. The righties I'm not really sure if I'm high on, but Max Kepler I love, Eddie Rosario I love. And, you know, unfortunately, they're probably the only two lefties in the lineup that really slug. So those are the two guys I really like. But then, of course, if they can knock Mize out of the game early, and it seems like his control issues and stuff are going to give him, in situations where he has a high pitch count, I'm going to like this stack overall. And Donaldson, Cruz in the middle order have a ton of power. So you got to like those guys. Moving further along, the next guy that struggles is Nick Margevicius. He has a 6.24 ERA. The K rate's bad. The ground ball and fly ball stuff's not good. Against righties, he gives up a 461 slugging, and against lefties, he gives up a 642 slugging, which is very, very bad. Really struggling against lefties, and that's a 92 innings pitch sample size. So we know for a fact this kid is really terrible against left-handed hitting, which means I'm going to like my friend Kyle Tucker again today. I was big on him yesterday. He went out and had a big game, and I'm big on him again today. So I like Kyle Tucker. I like Michael Brantley. I like those two guys for sure. The stack, I'm not really sure that I'm all that high on because, as I had mentioned, he's just really bad against lefties, which is a little ironic because he is a left-handed pitcher himself. So, you know, with that being said, when we're looking at his numbers against righties, he does give up 461 slugging, so you could definitely still have interest in the righties that match lefties, I will say. So, you know, Alex Bregman, Altuve, George Springer. I definitely like those guys. Carlos Correa, Marty Maldonado at the catcher spot. I definitely like them. But I definitely think that, you know, when we look at the numbers against lefties and how bad they've been, we can prioritize those guys, and we can prioritize them at low ownership. No one's going to play a lefty-on-lefty matchup. So I love throwing those numbers out there to you guys because you can go ahead and play them, feel confident, and not all other people are going to be playing them lefty-lefty. So you're going to get them low owned. So I like those plays today. And then this is when things start to get, you know, interesting because we definitely have broken down the bad of the bad. Not all the Vegas lines are out yet today. And we do have to, of course, we want to target, you know, bad pitchers, but we also want to target splitsies pitchers, meaning guys that struggle against certain handedness, and definitely we're looking at ballpark factors and all that stuff. So, I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, trying to give you guys some tips as to stuff you should be thinking about when you're building your lineups. But also, when we're looking on this slate today, I think we definitely have some guys, when we're looking at their splits, that are very, very bad. So it's a matter of breaking down their matchup now. So this is when I'm going to start breaking down some splits, because when we're looking at my splits chart here against right-handed hitting, we have some very, very bad guys against righties today. Most notably, Robbie Ray. When we're looking at Robbie Ray's numbers here, we can see he's taking on the New York Yankees today. He has a 43.8% hard hit rate, but specifically when looking at his splits, you can see against right-handed hitting, he is absolutely terrible in every single category except for the K rate. So taking on a New York Yankees team that's all righties is not going to fare well for him. 468 slugging, a 44.8 hard hit rate, the WOBA, the fly ball, the ground ball, the walk rate, Everything is just very, very bad against lefties. He's very impressive, but guess what? The Yankees don't really have any lefties, so he's going to have a bad day today, I have a feeling. He does have a high strikeout rate, so he could go out there and K a bunch of Yankees, and that could pay off for you in tournaments, but I tend to think I'm going to side with the Yankees in this one for the most part. I could throw Robbie Ray in a few lineups because, the Yankees do strike out. I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. It's just when you're looking at his hard contact and a swinging strike rate and all of that stuff, it's terrible. So yeah, or not even the swinging strike rate. Sorry, the walk rate. So even when he's struggling overall, he's also going to be walking guys and getting him. He's going to get himself in situations where if you walk the first two hitters in an inning and you have guys on first and second base, you have to come to the next hitter. So when you walk DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge, and then you have to face Giancarlo Stanton, it's probably not going to end well for you. So that's the gist of why I'm interested here. So not to ramble, but that's my thought process. Guys that have interest in DJ LeMahieu, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Luke Voigt, Gleyber Torres. Aaron Hicks is a switch hitter that excels more from the left-handed side of the plate, so I always try to play him against right-handed pitching if possible. But he is cheaper at 3.8K compared to the rest of this lineup. Gio Urshela, Gary Sanchez, and Clint Frazier. Every single righty in this lineup I love today. And it's a unique situation because, you have high-risk pitching Robbie Ray because these guys slug. But then you could also say you have high risk playing the Yankees because they do strike out, and Robbie Ray does have a high strikeout rate. But he's been so bad this year, I'm just going to side with the Yankees. And yeah, that's my overall breakdown of him. And he's not the only guy we can talk about that's splitsy. The next guy we had discussed targeting. Well, there's a whole group of guys that are bad against right-handed hitting here. So let's just go ahead and break every single one of them down. Trevor Williams. First guy, we'll make it quick. We'll go through these four, and then we can wrap things up for hitting today because these are the guys we're wanting to target. Trevor Williams taking on the Chicago Cubbies. Really bad against right-handed hitting. When looking at the Vegas lines today, there are no Vegas lines out yet, but Chicago gets to go into Pittsburgh, and Trevor Williams is really bad against righties. Wilson Contreras, Javi Baez, David Bodie. There are a ton of lefties in this lineup, so yeah. Those would be my guys I would target. And then when looking at Williams' numbers against lefties, he's actually a lot better. So maybe not a full stack today, just one-offs. We have all these splits, and we have lineups that match up against the splits, and we have lineups that don't match up against the splits. The next guy is Danny Duffy. He has a 444 slugging against righties. Very bad, and he has to take on the St. Louis Cardinals today. We'll look at the St. Louis Cardinals lineup. We can see that they have a 4.65 implied run total. Tommy Edman, Paul DeJong, Paul Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Yadier Molina. That middle of the order, I'm going to have a ton of interest in today. Those guys all excel against left-handed pitching. Harrison Bader, I like a lot. And then you could throw in a Dexter Fowler and Dylan Carlson to round out your stacks because Danny Duffy's just bad anytime he's facing anyone from the right-hand side of the plate. And then you have Tommy Edman, who's also a switch hitter. So I definitely think that the Cardinals are viable today. Michael Wacha, very, very bad against right-handed hitting. I will say this is, once again, the matchup's not lining up here, though, because the Tampa Bay Rays have a ton of left-handed hitters. So it's almost like we can just skip over it, but we'll go ahead and break down it just because we're on a roll here with these guys that suck against right-handed hitting. Randy Arozarena, sorry, I probably pronouncing that wrong, Mike Brosseau, and Willie Adames, and then Hunter Renfroe, Mike Zunino. So they are going to throw a lot of righties, it's looking like, and I'm sure that's probably designed because of the splits. All the righties are the guys I have interest in. Alex Young, I had discussed pitching him because the Texas Rangers do suck against left-handed pitching. However, when you're looking at his splits, he does suck against right-handed hitters. So contrarian stack that you can definitely throw in. If I'm picking guys to play from this lineup, it's going to be Nick Solak and Isaiah Kinner-Falefa. Those are my favorite options. And then you got Jeff Mathis at the catcher spot. Yeah, not really a stack I'm all that interested in, but definitely a contrarian one, and Alex Young does suck against right-handed hitting. And then Logan Webb taking on Colorado. Very bad against righties once again. 497 slugging. Seems to be a trend on these pitchers because it is. And looking at the Vegas lines for these Rockies, they're not really a team I have any interest in targeting, but if I am, it's the righties. So Kevin Pillar, Trevor Story, Josh Fuentes, Elias Diaz. Yeah. So, as we're breaking this down, it's weird because we have a lot of spots where these pitchers suck against a certain handedness, and the lineup they're facing just doesn't have any of those in it. So, I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it just makes it clear as to who we want to target today. I had mentioned the New York Yankees taking on Robbie Ray. Their lineup definitely matches up against him. Against lefties, we had mentioned Margevich's numbers against lefties and taking on the Houston Astros, and then we had mentioned Casey Mize. He struggles against lefties, taking on the Minnesota Twins. Eric Fetty, we mentioned. But overall, I'm not really seeing any too big of spots where we're just going to hammer the lefties outside of a couple here. The main one definitely being Zach Eflin. Zach Eflin's a guy who traditionally really, really struggles against left-handed hitting, so definitely want to point that out. A 521 slugging is not good, so we can definitely target the lefties against Zach Eflin every time he takes the mound. So, Juan Soto, absolute elite option if he's in the lineup. I'm going to love him. Andrew Stevenson, Asdrubal Cabrera, Brock Holt, Luis Garcia, Eric Thames. We finally have a lineup that matches up a little bit, with some lefties that can match. So definitely have interest in the Nationals lefties today. And then Adrian Hauser and Nathan Eovaldi are probably the last two I'll break down real quick. I had mentioned Hauser as a viable pitching option. However, you can see he does struggle more against left-handed hitting. And the Cincinnati Reds definitely have some guys that can mash. Akiyama at the top of the order, Joey Votto, Mike Moustakas and Jesse Winker are definitely my favorites in the lineup. And then you have Brian Goodwin and Tucker Barnhart to round things out. And then lastly, the very last guy is Nathan Eovaldi taking on these Baltimore Orioles. Once again, showing that he struggles more against left-handed hitting, 475 slugging. And when looking at the Baltimore Orioles lineup today, taking on these Red Sox, they only do have a 4.05 implied run total. However, I definitely think they have some lefties that can match here. And, not a lot, but Chance Sisco, DJ Store, and Rio Ruiz would be those guys. So, yeah, that is my overall breakdown of today's slate. As always, before I let you guys go, I need to give you guys my home run call of the day. And when, looking at these splits and everything we've gone over, and it's, we're looking at my sheet here and there's so much red going on it and so many guys that struggle against righties specifically, but then we're breaking down the slate and there's some lineups that don't really match up with that. So I think it's going to make the spots that are really good stand out even more, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for us, but I'm curious about ownership today. But anyways, that's just me thinking out loud. And yeah, we had gone over, I can't help but to pick a Yankees bat today, strictly because when you're looking at Robbie Ray's numbers, every single category he struggles in outside of the K rate. The hard hit rate, the slugging, the WOBA, the fly ball, the ground ball, these are all things that factor into picking a guy that is going to hit a home run, or picking a lineup that are going to hit multiple home runs, and picking a lineup that has fantasy upside. This is what we're looking for. And I think the Yankees definitely have that today. And when you're picking a bat in the Yankees lineup who crushes lefties, it's always going to be Giancarlo Stanton for me. Anytime Giancarlo Stanton gets to take on a lefty and the matchup's this good, I'm going to have a ton of interest in him, and he is my home run call of the day. A guy that just really, really excels against left-handed pitching, and he definitely gets a good chance to go deep today, if not once, multiple times. So, yeah, love Giancarlo Stanton. If the Yanks are hitting solo shots, I probably like that even more because it's going to keep Robbie Ray in the game longer and give them more chances to home runs. But also, I'm not too afraid of that bullpen. So, love Giancarlo Stanton. Love the Yankee stack today. I think it's in a great spot here. Go ahead and get Giancarlo in your lineups. He's going deep. My home run call of the day. If you're enjoying this content, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos that I release. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Go ahead and check out all the KJK DFS links in the description. And that is all for me today. I wish you all the best of luck tonight, and have a good one.